So a little bit about SanDisk. I'm not sure how familiar you all are with it, but I'm going to briefly go over some highlights about SanDisk and what we are. So SanDisk is a pioneer in flash memory storage. That is all we do. All of our products are flash-based products. We don't do anything other than that. We believe we are product and technology leaders in all the key markets which we are addressing. We've been qualified at the leading server and storage OEMs, and we are used in all the leading tablet and smartphone OEMs. One of the things that makes SanDisk unique is that we have a lot of patents around NAND flash. We have over 5,800 patents, which we think is quite large compared to our competitors in this market. We are vertically integrated. On the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about being vertically integrated. And something many people don't know is that with our joint venture with Toshiba in Yokkaichi, Japan, out of that fab is 40% of the world's bit throughput or output. So SanDisk has been doing NAND flash memory for over 27 years. We think that being vertically integrated really gives us an advantage over our competition. We do our own memory design and the production in Japan. The design is done globally, but production is done in Japan. We design our own controllers and develop the firmware that goes with that. The packaging and assembly is all done at our own factories. We have a factory in Shanghai that does a lot of our back-end packaging and assembly, as well as we have a new one in Malaysia. So what's advantageous about having this being vertically integrated is that it allows us to have very strict and tight quality controls on our product being manufactured. We understand that with the automotive industry, having high quality, high reliable products is very, very important to them. They cannot have failures out in the field with their cars breaking down or whatnot. So SanDisk takes that very serious, and we put in very, very tight quality controls on that. So next is just to give you an overview of SanDisk and the different types of products which we have. On the left side is what we call our commercial storage solution. On the right side is the retail storage solution. So on the right are the types of products you would see at your electronics store that you could go out and buy for your camera or for your very different electronic products. And on the left, there are some products which are similar, such as SD cards and micro SDs and SSDs. There are other products which are just unique for our OEM customers. So we have two different solutions for two different markets. So in our commercial storage solutions, we have the solutions that go from our data centers solutions, storage solutions, which we use in your data warehouse, cloud type applications, to client storage solutions, which would be SSDs into your computers, as well as mobile and industrial storage solutions, which includes automotive. So within our commercial business, we focus on several different markets. And one is the commercial, which is more of a generic type solution for customers looking for different types of low-cost solutions. We also have our industrial markets, which we address with unique products specific to those markets and the needs which they have there. And also our automotive, which is unique in its own way, the different requirements and specifications that automotive customers require from us. So a little bit about the market we see out here. We see that the market is continuing to grow. The needs for data storage for NAND flash is going to continue to grow into the future. What we have here on the slides is some data from different research companies. One saying that there's going to be 44 trillion gigabytes of data in existence in 2020, which is a lot of data. And then also another one says by 2020 there will be 26 billion connected devices. Now this isn't just your smartphones or tablets or other things like that. You could think of connected devices to be also your car. It could be the things which we call today IoT, the Internet of Things. Many, many different applications which we haven't even thought about today will start to appear by 2020. Connected cars is here today. It's nothing new, but what researchers are saying that by 2020, all new, or 75% of new cars that will be sold into the market will be connected. And all of these open up great opportunities for NAND flash. So there are lots of different applications. Right here we're showing a few that are more industrial type applications that are in need of storage and are generating lots of data. For example, there's mining that's generating at 2.4 terabytes per minute per year. So all the smart meters in the world. With airplanes, 40 terabytes per day. So that can be all the information that is coming in from the sensors on the airplane. As the plane's flying, it's recording lots of the details of the sensors, the equipment, the situation of the airplane gets recorded, and then when the airplane lands, they download that to analyze. For buildings, 250 gigabytes a day. This can be your POS systems, it can be your security cameras, lots of different applications there. And then self-driving cars. There's estimates that it's one amount of data that they generate is a gigabyte per second, which is a lot of data. Now, do they need to store all of that data? Some of it yes, some of it no. So, talking more about the connected car now. This is something that's of a lot of interest to SanDisk, and where SanDisk is putting a lot of focus. So, up until now, the places that NAND flash memory has been needed in the car has been with the infotainment, with the maps, with the display audio. Those are the type of applications where NAND flash has been used quite a bit. We think as we go more and more into the ADAS, the automatic driving, that there will be greater and greater needs. As the 3D maps become more complex, they'll use more memory. As the OS systems become more complex, they will become larger, and the OS is often stored within NAND flash. There'll be a lot of new apps that get added into the car. As it becomes more complex, it becomes more like your smartphone in a car, basically. There'll be a lot of caching of data that's coming in from the different sensors, the different cameras which you have on your car to help it be able to drive automatically. And then security and backup. So one thing you can think about for security and backup is OTA, over the air. There's software updates that get done over the air. Before they get installed into the car, they have to be stored somewhere. So that new software gets sent across into the car, is saved in NAND flash, and then at a later point it gets installed. Now if there's a problem with the installation, they need to restore it back to the original software. So there will be a local copy of the original factory software that will be also stored in NAND flash. So we also see digital cluster, which has not been typically a place where NAND flash would be used, is also a place where automakers are considering using NAND flash as they're starting to try and do more in the cluster, more visual information for the customers. Also the V2V or V2I or V2X, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be a need to store that information that is being sent back and forth between the car or the infrastructure or cars and cars. So we see that the amount of storage they will need will be from anywhere as low as 4 gigabyte for very, very low end models, all the way up to possibly 1 terabyte, depending on how much they want to actually store data and how many features they want to provide to their customers. So we believe that NAND flash really enables a lot of technologies to bloom. For example, if we think back 10, 15 years ago, before smartphones came onto the market, SanDisk would go and approach telephone, or flip phones, or whatever you want to call them, and talk to them about NAND flash. They would say, we we don't need that much memory. Phones do not need memory. They will never need that much memory for flash. Today, we have smartphones. NAND flash is a very key component to that. Because we have NAND flash, instant on. You touch the button, it comes on. Because of NAND flash, you can take lots of video. You can take lots of pictures. You can download lots of apps. All because you have NAND flash on your phone. Likewise, I think with cars, with automobiles, that this NAND flash is also going to become a very key component. And today it's very limited, just the infotainment area, but it will become a major component for the whole car, where the operating systems will be stored, where data is collected and analyzed, and it will also be used for buffering data that comes in from the cloud, or to and from the cloud, to optimize the bandwidth. So today, we're announcing some new features that we're adding into our automotive and industrial cards. And I will go through each one of these features. So the first one is what we call the health status. So this is a feature which allows the host to be able to find out how much life is left in the card. So next one is our enhanced power immunity. So this is for systems when they lose power, or if they're running by battery and the power source is not stable. You need to make sure that the data that's being written to it does not get corrupt. So this is having power immunity is not new to SanDisk products. However, we've enhanced it based upon issues we've seen, corner cases from different customers. We've improved our algorithms to be stronger. So SanDisk is a world leader in the number of cards, micro SD cards that are shipped in the world. So we have a lot of expertise, we have a lot of feedback from customer, and based on that knowledge database, we were able to make these improvements. So the next item is our read refresh. Now this is something that's very critical for applications that are doing a lot of reading, especially to like the same memory address or memory block. If they do a lot of read intensive on the same area, it can cause data corruption in blocks that are next to that location. So now this card recognizes when any of the blocks have gotten to a threshold, what we call an ECC threshold, error correction code threshold. It recognizes when it's gotten to that threshold where it needs to refresh that block, or it's going to lose the data. So it increases by having this algorithm in here to handle the read refresh, then it helps maximize the read endurance of the card. Programmable string. So this is an option that allows customers to write some kind of an ID into the card. It's a one-time write, programmable. So they write the information into the card that can be used as an ID. And I'll talk more, but you can go with that one. So the ID, which you probably already talked about,
yeah.
The ID can be used to put in, the company name. It can put a project in, a date, a serial number if they want, all sorts of things to make it identifiable as an authentic card from that manufacturer. So the next one's host lock, and host lock is basically a password protection feature. So the idea behind that is the card requires a password in order for it to be accessed. So you stick it into the host. If the host gives the password, then the host can access the card. It can write to it. It can read to it. If the card is put into a host that does not give it the password, then the card is not accessible at all. It cannot be reformatted. It can't be used at all. So that can help protect the car manufacturer's IP, their data, whatever it may be. So example, again, map data that may be put onto a card. They don't want somebody to take that map data, which they've had developed for their cars, be taken and put into an aftermarket navigation system. They want it to only work in their systems. and they don't want somebody to take a card from somewhere else and put it into their host as well. So it helps create privacy and security for the OEMs on their data. So the last feature that we have added is called the Secured FFU, which stands for Field Firmware Update. So this allows, what this does is if a customer comes to SanDisk and says they want some customization done to the card, which requires SanDisk to change the firmware, well, we would then change the firmware for the card, SD or micro SD card, and we provide them a kit, so to speak, to allow them to update the firmware in the cards for the cards that they have in inventory, or possibly even the cards that they have already out of their customers. Up until now, customers have had to return the cards to us. We would update the firmware and send it back to them, which costs a lot of time and money for our customers. So the next slide is talking about benefits. I've talked about most of these already, so I won't reiterate on it. But the one on the far right, so we talked about how it's good for in cars and such. You get a notification, then you take it for maintenance to get fixed. The same thing could be also done for industrial applications, such as security cameras that use cards. It can allow then the host reads the card, says, okay, it's time for us to get replaced. Rather than I'll let you go to that one, I can continue. So security cameras, it's often like in a building or such, and you have a security maintenance company. What they would do typically was they'd say every year, we're gonna go send people out and we'll replace the cards that are in the cameras. It could be that the cards are still good for another 3, 4, 5 years. And they're wasting money by one, having to replace the cards, and two, by sending out people to actually have to do the labor to remove and replace the cards. Yeah, so this is something that the maintenance company instead, they could just go and ask and check on what the health of the card is and schedule that accordingly. So next we're talking about what the cards that we have. So this is the SanDisk Automotive SD cards. And we have lots of features. The capacity that it's available in is from 8 to 64 gigabyte. Sequential reads and writes are up to 20 megabytes per second. And these are minus 40 to 85 temperature, operating temperature, which is the typical requirement for a lot of the automotive applications, especially within the infotainment. The minus 40 to 85 is efficient or sufficient. And then also, as our previous version it had as well as the AEC Q100, which is required by many of our customers, especially in I think in Korea as well, but in Europe and the United States. So we also have the same features included into our SD cards, our industrial SD cards. So with our industrial, we have actually two types. We have a standard industrial, which is minus 25 to 85. And then we have our industrial XT, which is extended temp, which goes minus 40 to 85. This is the last slide, yeah. Just to summarize. As I said, we expect with automotive becoming more connected, with IoT market growing, there's just going to be more and more needs for NAND flash products. That's why SanDisk is investing in these new products. And we believe that we provide the widest product lineup of anybody out there. Especially with SD cards, micro SD cards, that is where SanDisk has been the global leader since day one, but basically. Thank you. Any other questions?